Last week, Donald Trump and his posse of goons traveled to China to discuss trade. So let's talk about what they talked about and who could profit off of this meeting. I'm V. I'm not a financial advisor or a geopolitical analyst, but I do watch where our government is spending money and I allocate my investments based on that. For this meeting, there's a couple things you need to keep in mind. Number one, Donald Trump is going to run his mouth about a bunch of shit that he knows absolutely nothing about. That's what he does. You can't take anything he says literally, figuratively, or seriously. Secondly, China kind of hates us. So most of what they talked about was lip service and ego stroking. One example of this is the agreement with Boeing. Trump is bragging that China has agreed to purchase 200 airplanes from the American manufacturer. This is less than half of what investors and analysts expected them to buy. And neither Boeing nor Beijing have confirmed this deal. If that actually happens, it's a huge deal for Boeing and a lot of other manufacturers like General Dynamic, who create the engines that go into the planes. It would be their first major deal with China in a decade. Another example of this is the soybean deal that Trump is touting. He's not really provided any concrete details, only saying that China has agreed to buy billions of dollars worth of soybeans and other agricultural products like pork from American farmers through 2028. This is supposed to be supplementary to another soybean agreement made last October. It's interesting to note that the United States government memo is different than the one from the Chinese government. Ours mentions specific numbers, whereas theirs does not. There's a similar discrepancy surrounding rare earth minerals. China's memo doesn't mention them at all, while the American government is acting like we've accomplished some great trade negotiation victory. Our statement specifically said that the Chinese government would address shortages of yttrium, scandium, neodymium, and indium. Probably all of those are pronounced incorrectly. They're pretty obscure and they're used for components of weapons, smartphones, and cars. That discrepancy is a pretty good sign that these deals aren't final and that they have a strong potential to fall apart. Trump and Xi also discussed Taiwan, which is something that White House officials repeatedly assured journalists would not be on the agenda. Trump stated after the meeting that he was rethinking U.S. relations with Taiwan and is reconsidering arms sales to the island. It's a bit terrifying. Trump has already delayed signing a $14 billion arms sale to the island. That's unrelated to these trade talks, but they all think that we're morons, so what does that matter? Taiwan is extremely important right now in the global market. Something like 90% or more of our advanced silicon semiconductor chips come from Taiwan. I think it was pretty obvious this would be on the agenda when they showed up with both the muskrat and the CEO of NVIDIA. Tesla is reliant on this huge plant in Shanghai, and NVIDIA wants to be able to sell chips in China again. I also discussed the Strait of Hormuz. China gets a lot of its energy from that region. So you'd think it'd be a big deal. The White House memo said that they agreed that there shouldn't be tolls and that the strait should be open for shipping. But it doesn't really seem like anything substantial is going to come out of that, or any of this, really. There were really low expectations going into this trade discussion, and everything's pretty underwhelming and very fluid. The Boeing deal seems the most likely to happen out of all of this, or maybe even just a watered down version may happen. It all seems very shaky. They didn't even discuss tariffs at all, which is bonkers. Nobody is being serious here. Xi is supposed to come to the U.S. for a state dinner this fall, so we'll see if anything substantial happens between now and then.